Welcome back. It is yours truly, Nick, of Movie AV Impulse, and I'm here to bring you another 80s cult classic that I bet you've seen as a kid, but if you haven't, you should definitely go check it out because this is not only free on Shudder, but it is also on Freevee, it is on Amazon Prime, it is also on Tubi. So if you've never seen this movie, you got to check it out. Some of the CGI doesn't hold up, but we'll get into all that because these kids opened up the gates to hell. The 80s was just one of those decades where I think horror really shined, and we will never really capture that again because it was all original ideas. Home of the best slasher movies, the best vampire movies like Fright Night, Lost Boys, and another one that always gets lost in the mix because of Fright Night and Lost Boys is Near Dark. That was just one of those violent vampire movies, and I absolutely loved it. But anyways, let's get into that intro.
Be right back!
Wait. Before we get into that, let me just pay homage to one of the greatest horror anthologies that has come to date, in my opinion. There's been plenty of great ones, especially ones that didn't get a good rep at first and then shortly became a cult classic, like Trick or Treat. Nobody seemed to like that movie except for true horror fans. And then, now all of a sudden it's getting all this attention. Anyways, I'm talking about Creepshow, which as of next month in November will be celebrating its 40-year anniversary. That is insane that 40 years later, this anthology still holds up to date. It is 5 short stories and they are all awesome. And that is all thanks to George Romero and Stephen King. If you haven't seen Creepshow, I don't know what rock you're living under, but dig yourself out of it. Move that rock and go check that out. Definitely worth a watch. One of the greatest horror anthologies. I'll argue that with anybody. But now let's get into Thegate, one of the cult classics of the 80s. This is a very child-friendly, maybe 10 and up movie that you could watch with your kids if you have them. It's one of those cult classics. Don't get me wrong. The CGI, some of it does not hold up. It was a low budget film. It wasn't a big blockbuster. It is, though, just cheesy 80s fun, and I love it. The premise of the movie, the whole story is this kid, he has a friend. It's Glenn and Terry, and he has an older sister. I can't remember the name of her off the top of my head. I'll flash it on the screen. There's an old tree in Glenn's backyard, and it ends up getting struck by lightning. It falls over, so naturally the parents call and they get like a tree removal service to come and remove the tree. Well, underneath that tree they find like these circle shaped rocks that when they break it open, it has like crystals in it, like nuclear stones. I don't even know what they call them, but it makes shiny. So the kids are like, oh my god, we can get money off of this, let's go and dig up some more. Well, as the two kids are digging into this hole, basically opening the portal demon dimension, which kind of looks like hell, just when they think that everything is all set because they don't know what's going on, all of a sudden these little demons start coming out of nowhere and chaos starts to happen. The parents end up leaving for a vacation, and the older sister convinces them to let her babysit. They end up going and they let the older daughter babysit. The hilarious part about this is the first thing that she does in true 80s and 90s kids fashion. What do? She throws a house party. After this house party, all these things start to happen, especially when they're playing this trick on Glenn and they make him levitate. Thing is that his friend Terry discovers that this band that he listens to, who after they made their first album, it was talking about opening up the gates of hell to the other side. This album is basically telling you how to close this hole. When he discovers that, he goes running over Glenn's house because he's like, listen, I figured out how to close this hole up. They just start doing all this stuff, basically try to get that hole closed. And just when they think they have it closed because they seen it catch on fire, it ended up closing and kind of dug itself back into the ground, is when the monster emerges from his house. and it just starts to get crazy from there. These little tiny creatures come out and they're trying to drag them into hell. It is just one of those great cult classics. And like I said, it is not scary enough. Give your kids nightmares as long as they're 10 and older. There are a lot of movies that I let my 11-year-old watch. It's movies like this that help me help him enjoy horror movies that are not that crazy for him. Like, I wouldn't let him watch a Freddy or a Jason or even a Michael Myers. I mean, I'm pushing the boundaries a little bit when you're 11, because I watched Michael Myers Part 4.
Who played Michael Myers in Halloween 4?
The Return of Michael Myers, and that one is always going to be my favorite because that is the very first one that I seen. As a 8-year-old, when I seen that movie, it just like made my head explode. I was like, oh my God, this guy just stuck a thumb through a guy's forehead. Once again, I just love the 80s. I love everything that came out of it. The sci-fi movies, the action movies, they lived.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
They Live is one of John Carpenter's best. Some of these movies that we forget about, we need to revisit, but the 80s just had that originality and the substance and the every genre of horror together. It's just phenomenal. I'll never stop bragging about 80s horror or 80s sci-fi or 80s action or any of that because it's just so great. So make sure you go revisit Thegate. It is awesome. It's definitely worth a watch. I will be doing my top 5 on Wednesday as always on. Just tune in and you'll see. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. I appreciate all my supporters, but to me, it's not really about the subscriptions or the likes. It just helps me get into that algorithm because I love movies and I love talking about them. If you're going to be looking for Halloween ends from me, I know I'm a huge Michael Myers fan and y'all should know that too, but after seeing some of these reviews, which I will link Justin's review up here somewhere because I really like the review that he did. It's a spoiler free. I just can't do it. I don't know, man. This trilogy of Halloween just kind of ruined it for me. Especially, I think it's because it took away my favorite, which was Part 4. I even like that one better than the first one.
What did you say?
I know you guys can criticize me all day, but I think it's just the pure nostalgia of that was the first Michael Myers movie that I ever loved. Just like Freddy, the first Freddy that I seen was the Dream Warriors, and that one just another one that holds a special place in my heart because that's the first Freddy movie I seen. Thank you again. Sorry for the rambling. And then come November, it is going to be an action-packed sci-fi month that you're going to love on this channel. Anyways, thank you, and I will see you on Wednesday.